said when in the
Yes. It starts with Sarah.
Sorry you laugh. The sound like tumbling water only sets music. Of course you will make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But you will begin to better recognize my voice as we continue to grow our relationship. I don't want to make mistakes, Mac grunted. Oh, Mackenzie, responded Sarah Lee. Mistakes are a part of life, and Papa worked her purpose in them too. She was she was amused, and Mac couldn't help but grin back. He could see her point well enough. This is so different from everything I've known. Sorry, you. Don't get me wrong. I love what you all have given me this weekend, but I have no idea how to go back to my life. Somehow it seemed easier to live with God when I thought of Him as the demanding taskmaster, or even to cope with the loneliness of the great sadness. You think so? She asked. Really? At least then I seem to have things under control. Seemed is the right word. What what did it get you? The great sadness and more pain that you could bear, more pain than you could bear, pain that spilled over even on those you care for the most. According to Papa, that's because I'm scared of emotions, he exposed. Sarah, you laughed out loud. I thought that little interchange was hilarious. I am a
Anybody before? Because I have some thoughts right now. Go ahead.
well,
Yeah.
because this this resonates so much with me simply because of when he says, um, he talks about how he works through mistakes, and then Max says, "I don't want to make mistakes." You know, that's me all up and down.
Yes.
So I thought that it was very interesting that he was able to be open and address the fact that he doesn't want to make mistakes, and then have that come back saying that, but I work through mistakes.
Yes.
And the other part of it that is just, this is just me really up and down too, because he says this is so different from everything I've known. And he says he wants to go back to when God seems like a taskmaster. It's so easy to go back to what's comfortable to you and what's familiar to you, because it's different from what we know. And it's hard to keep putting one foot in front of the other when you're in the unknown. Whereas it's easy to go back to the things that are familiar to you. It's easier to see God as that taskmaster, because then you feel like He has a reason to accept you and forgive you if you do something to earn His forgiveness and His
Absolutely.
love. But it is so much harder to just as you were saying, just to accept God's love,
Yes.
His grace, accept His forgiveness. So He's like, I want to have something. It's about that control. I want to have something that is going to make me go back to me feeling like, oh, now God has the right to love me. You know?
Yes.
So I think that for me, I really identified with that, with the whole not wanting to make mistakes, and with the whole wanting to go back to God as the taskmaster, and feeling like, well, if I do this and I do that, then I can deserve your love. I can deserve your grace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. My perspective is that could it not be that it's a trick of the enemy? You know, that exactly. He keeps us boxed in, makes us feel like we're undeserving of God's love. And I think I felt that way. I felt like, I've done something so horrible. I mean, recently, I felt that way. I've done something so horrible. I don't deserve to be loved. And it all goes, and how many people in the world feel like that?
They do.
I don't deserve to be loved. I don't love myself. So therefore, when that's God's whole picture, God tells us, love, have no other God before us, and love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Right.
But how can you even do that when half the time a lot of people don't love themselves?
Right. Yes.
Or they're the total opposite. They're lovers of themselves.
Yes.
So, I think that it's a trick of the enemy as well, and to keep us separated from God, and understanding God's love for us surpasses all our understanding.
That's right. That's good. And that's how I feel about this book. Even though we're not finished, we're just in chapter 13 right now, but I feel like I feel like it's interesting, just what you all have said, how now the scales are coming down and Mac is just revealing how he really feels about God, who he really is.
Yes.
Just is amazing. And I feel like Mac, this book, God used Mac to reveal some things that we all deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
And it's coming through this book. The things that we don't want to say, Mac is dealing with in this book. It's awesome. Adrian, if you would read on about the emotions, because I think that is very important too.
That was
good.
Okay, what is it?
I am afraid.
Alright, okay. I am afraid of emotions, Mac admitted, a bit perturbed that she seemed to make light of it. I don't like how they feel. I've hurt others with them and I can't trust them at all. Did you create all of them or only the good ones? Mackenzie, Sarah, you seem to rise up in the air. Max still had a difficult time looking right at her, but with the late afternoon sun reflecting off the water, it was even worse. Emotions are the color of the soul. They are spectacular and incredible. When you don't feel, the world becomes dull and colorless. Just think how the great sadness reduced the range of colors in your life down to monotones and flat grays and blacks. So help me understand them, pleaded Matt. Not much to understand, actually. They just are. They are neither bad nor good. They just exist. Here is something that will help you sort out this in your mind. Mackenzie paradigm's power, perception, and perception's power, emotion. Most emotions are responses to perception. What you think is true about a given situation. If your perception is false, then your emotional response to it will be false too. So check your perception. And beyond that, check the truthfulness of your paradigm. What you believe. Just because you believe something firmly doesn't make it true.
Absolutely.
Be willing to re-examine what you believe. The more you live in the truth, the more your emotions will help you see clearly. But even then, you don't want to trust them more than me.
Wow, that is so powerful.
Yes, it is.
So how we perceive things, or how we look at things, helps our emotions, is what he's saying. That is so powerful. And we need to really examine how we believe and what we believe in, and realize that it's the truth.
Yes.
We have to believe in the truth and not just take anything at face value. We have to examine and see if it is of the truth.
Absolutely. I agree.
And I think that was pivotal when he said, as far as the last statement, but even then, you don't want to trust them more than me. Which everything comes
Absolutely.
back to with Mac, put your trust in me, and you'll be okay.
Yes.
God is preparing Mac to go forward back into his regular day and everyday living, trusting in what he can't see. Because right now he can see God, or who he thinks is God, but that was really good. And I like how he's being educated. God is an educator.
But he had a trust issue all the way through the story, from the beginning to the end. He had all through the 14th chapter. He had a trust issue. You know, he didn't trust anybody. He had, trust just himself. And with his kids, he thought that he would be the only one to save them. And then the one went missing while he was, on watch with the children. So, he had trust issues with that, and control issues.
Can I say that it is very good? I think that we all have trust issues. We a lot of times, just on a practical level, not even thinking about this God that we cannot see, but whom we should give all our trust into. We do so much to each other. We do so many distrustful things within ourselves that separate, that we can't trust other people.
Right.
You know,
Exactly.
and
You know how yourself is.
exactly.
So if you're going to do it, someone else will do it.
Exactly. And then hurt brings on distrust. What about